in high school. Every course is an opportunity for propaganda and indoctrination. The goal is to brainwash the kids so they operate within a very tight box, a very tight framework through which they're allowed to think and debate to the extent that they can. But uniformity and conformity is demanded, just as it's demanded now publicly, just as there's an attack on free speech. Go.
Lesson 7 is about culture jamming graffiti art. So in this lesson, students explore the use of street art for critiquing society and broadcasting subversive messages about race and social justice. And then they get to design their own graffiti art pieces using stencils. And their challenge is to design art that challenges their viewers to look at or think about an aspect of race or social justice from a new perspective. And then finally, the last lesson is on Fabiana Rodriguez and printmaking for social justice. We'll talk more about this lesson in just a moment, but students look at the artwork of activist and artist Fabiana Rodriguez and learn about the use of printmaking as a tool for activism, and then they get to create their own prints. So the goals in the English curriculum are—
So that was art class. So it's not, draw, different types of traditional art, or even non-traditional art. It is social activism. You'll draw social activism. You'll finger paint social activism. We'll give them stencils for social activism. Go ahead.
It's literature to teach students about themselves and others, to support students in grappling with themes of race, identity, and intersectionality, to help students think more expansively about what constitutes a text, and to demonstrate that all texts grapple with identity and race, either explicitly or implicitly. So students learn about DACA, or the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Program, which currently supports over 700,000 people brought to the United States as children of adoption.
So here we are in the mathematics curriculum learning about DACA. Illegal immigrants, not all of whom are children, it's ridiculous. Some of them are well into their 30s, as a matter of fact. Go ahead.
And so in the first part of this lesson, students explore the impact of both individually and on our broader society of the July 2021 court ruling that DACA was unconstitutional. And then in the second part of the lesson—
So you learn to hate the Supreme Court. You learn racial wealth gap, how prison gerrymandering harms communities of color, food deserts in low-income communities, redlining racially discriminatory housing practices, police killings of people of color. In other words, you take the American Marxist movements, which has a voice in the Democrat Party, and you're teaching them the most radical elements then of the Democrat Party. That's what education has become here. Math curriculum, art, English. I mean, this is the destruction of America. You're hearing it and you're reading. This isn't about diversity. It's about brainwashing. Go ahead.
Students imagine that they are helping to plan a protest in support of DACA, and they need to determine how to maximize attendance given a variety of outreach.
So now you're teaching kids how to plan a protest. This all is written up in American Marxism. I even tell you which professors in which schools sort of hatch these ideas, how they're promoted, how they're reinforced, the repetition in the textbooks, in the lectures, in the seminars. And this is what's going on. It is spread like a cancer. Go ahead.
And then lesson 8, this is a heavy one, and we definitely recommend that teachers prepare their students and themselves in advance of teaching this lesson. It's about police killings of people of color, and it uses data to explore the racial disproportionality among the victims of police killings and of police use of force. So students examine real world data to determine that—
So when you look at this, you're taking apart society. This is only math. Remember, they already had art and English, I think, but this is math. Well, where's algebra up there? Where's anything up there? These are the lesson topics for math curriculum review. How are people going to learn this stuff that they need to operate outside society? Well, they're not. You're creating revolutionaries to do what? to tear the country to pieces. Go ahead.
World data to determine that Black and Latinx people are killed by police at rates proportionate to their overall representation.
This is so ridiculous. We've been through the statistics. And of course, the murder that's taking place in this country is disproportionate among colored people, by colored people. It is the greatest civil rights issue of our time, and that won't be discussed. Go ahead.
Population. And then they examine data that debunk the misperception that police kill more Black and Latinx people because those people commit more crimes. And then finally, they consider what it would take to eliminate these disparities. Lesson 6 is about how healthy bodies come in all sizes. This lesson addresses how health can be experienced at every size and debunks the notion that health is defined by body size. Students will learn about how weight-based discrimination...
Okay, let me interpret this. That health is not determined by body size. What does that mean? That means, and this is how they camouflage this stuff, that they can talk about transsexualism and all the other isms just because these are little kids, you know, little bodies, little kids. These are health issues, not moral issues. Abortion. Just because they're little kids doesn't mean we can't talk to them about it, because abortion is a health issue. So this is what they mean. These are all health issues. You won't see the words on this list. Maybe there's another one on sexuality or transgenderism or teaching kids about gender, binary gender, if you're born with it biologically or not. So it's a health issue. That's all. Now, number one, health oppression and the social construction of health, also in American Marxism. It's amazing. This is where the Marxism and transgenderism and these other isms fuse. Their argument is that the binary sexes, a male with his genitalia, a female with her genitalia, that the only reason we accept this whole notion of binaryism is because of health oppression and social construction. You're oppressing people who want to change or have changed mentally or want to do things with their genitalia that's not acceptable because of our social construction of health. So health oppression, social construction. You see how devious this is? Go ahead.
Often intersects with racial and gender discrimination, and how to think more holistically and inclusively.
This is intersectionality. So if you happen to be a Hispanic individual who has transgendered or is seeking to transgender and whatever else, that's called intersectionality. So you have a double negative by existing society. And so you're oppressed, you're discriminated against because of two reasons. Number one, you're a person of color, and number two, you don't accept the binary choices of social construction that's been imposed on us by the white dominant Christian Judeo society. That's what this is. Go ahead.
Lesson 7 is on redefining beauty. In this lesson, students examine how beauty is defined socially and how the beauty ideal is based in racism, sexism, and ableism, yet harms all of us. And then students learn how to dismantle these narrow standards of beauty. And then finally, lesson 8 looks at ancestral trauma and radical empathy. And in this lesson, students reflect on how such ancestral trauma manifests and affects us today, and how trauma is connected to racism and other forms of systemic oppression. Students also learn about radical empathy as a tool to aid in our collective healing from ancestral trauma generally and from racial and systemic oppression specifically.
Whoa, that's a mouthful. Gee, can't I just go to class and learn some health and wellness issues? You know, brush your teeth, wash your hands, wash your hair, stay away from lice by staying clean, how to prepare food, how to eat food. I mean, we used to call this, home economics, I think we called it. Even we guys had to take it, or if you will. we things with male appendages.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to levintv.com and subscribe now.